Hello, everyone. It's Friday. It's Chat with Mac. We are glad to have you as we close out April. Today's my birthday, by the way. Go figure.
Well, happy birthday, Mac.
Thank you. Thank you. I just had to remember, I've been working on that for it's the 29th. But yep, we're closing out April. We thank everyone for watching us every week. For those of you that are new to what we do, welcome, welcome, welcome. And for those of you that are always watching and giving input, we really appreciate you also. Nadeem, how's it going? So you had a pretty busy first half of the weekend. Well, week, sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, I did. I was out of town. We had a so once. Well, we're going to be doing once a quarter. It's supposed to be once a quarter, but with the pandemic, it kind of stopped. But we try to do like all the MSPs, around the country and around the world. We try to get together for a few days, share some ideas, share some thoughts, just look to the future, see how we can uh, make improvements, as an industry as a whole. So it's an interesting concept, and so yeah, I was over there. It was in Philadelphia this time, and I got totally messed up because my flight got delayed, which means, well, first of all, I couldn't find a direct flight, and then my first leg got so delayed that I was going to miss the second leg of the flight, so I had to redo it. So it flew me from here to Salt Lake City and then back to Philadelphia. So Salt Lake City is an hour ahead, and then Philadelphia is 2 hours behind. I was
Hi.
totally messed
Yeah.
up. So when I got there, um, I landed at 5:54 a.m. in Philadelphia local time, and made my way to the hotel. Didn't even go to sleep. I just showered and went straight in. so
I heard it's
uh,
been bad. I heard I'm planning to go see my dad and back home in Chicago, and my dad was like, "Plan well." He's telling me it's been really really bad as far as airlines are concerned.
yeah, so I met this lady over at the airport. I think it was Houston Airport. Yeah, it was in Houston when my flight got delayed, and I was waiting for the next one, and it was the same way with her. So I told her, look, I don't fly Delta normally. This is the first time I've flown Delta, and Delta has failed me 100% of the time so far. And she was like, no, she flies Delta all the time, and this is the first time that she's ever missed a flight because it was late, and it's never happened before. So I was like, well, time will tell.
Time will
But
tell, right?
yeah, but I think what happened this time, what was weird was there was some kind of a lightning storm around Houston Intercontinental, and that's why it delayed a bunch of flights and just caused all kinds. But I gotta give it to them. I mean, the getting the new flight and getting everything planned out, they made it easy. I mean, I was kind of wondering if I was gonna miss the whole thing. I mean, if I can't get the next flight, then you know. I'm not going.
Right.
So but no, they made it easy. They, just I don't even think I had the app at that point, the Delta app. So I was just on their website, and it just you know gave me the options. The next flights, it booked everything. Everything was done, and no worries. But the good thing is that I didn't have any baggage to check in. I fly real light. I mean, I got my laptop, and I have one small bag. That's all I need.
Right.
And so yeah, it was an interesting thing to do. And then the more interesting part was once we got there. I mean, so we do these things to it's one thing to just get all of us from everywhere get together and talk about industry as a whole, but that's not where the real value is. The real value is in the relationships we build outside of the actual event. Like we go to dinner or we do something, we go to a bar or something we do after the event is done, every night. And so a bunch of us, we get together, we start planning. It's like, one guy is from Hawaii, and every time he flies in from Hawaii to the mainland, it is like, why don't we fly over to you one time.
Right.
So that whole thing, and so we were planning, and then this one guy who's a pilot, he flies, and he actually flew his own plane to the event. So we were like, well, so what we need to do is we need to plan to go to Hawaii, and you can bring your plane. So, so it was a lot of interesting, and then of course then you see what's actually happening in some of these businesses. What are the challenges everybody's facing? And then we kind of, because most times whatever challenge one is facing, somebody else has already faced it, and somebody else has already figured it out. So we try to kind of share that data. One of the highlights, for me was, if I'm thinking everybody still remembers the Kaseya breach, right?
Yeah.
So there was a guy over there. There was an MSP who was hit with this breach, and he recovered, and he's still in business. So there were a few things that he did that were already in place that he shared with everybody else that we need to have in place, and our customers need to have in place, and all that. So it was a huge, it was a big thing, um, a very good event. Even though I was like going on no sleep, but it was such a great event. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
So,
So
what are some of the? I don't know. I know you talk about things that are happening in the industry. I mean, is there any nuggets that you can share with us as far as what some of the other MSPs have seen in the industry and how it relates to small business? I don't know if anybody has heard, but well, it's kind of relevant to what we're talking about. There's another T-Mobile hack. This time, I forget what these guys made off with, but they made off with some more information. So I'm pretty sure there's maybe been some concern that was talked about while you were there.
so breaches and security issues, they're no longer one-off events. They're just a fact of life now.
Man,
I mean, like so I specifically asked this MSP who had gotten breached, that who was hit with that Kaseya breach, and I was like, did you do a forensic analysis? What did you find? What makes you different than every other MSP who did not get breached? Why you? So first, let me tell you this: he was very well prepared. He had good cyber insurance coverage. He had a breach coach already, waiting, ready to roll. Everything was in place. And but at the end of the day, the reason he got hit was, in one word, luck.
wow.
There was nothing special about him why he was the one who got breached. There was nothing special about anybody else. It was just luck. But the good thing is he had the breach coach already on standby. He had a good cyber coverage, which he had only gotten earlier in the year. He didn't have that before, because before, cybercrime coverage was just a checkbox and boom, you're done. Well, he had good coverage.
Smart.
And then, so he engaged with the breach coach. The breach coach knew exactly what to do and what not to do. They planned everything out. There was legal involved. I mean, it was like he, and the best part was that other MSPs around the nation donated their tech time. It was like, hey, we know you need help. We know that. What can we do to help? And he was like, well, I need people. I can't get people. I need people to do this remediation. And so there were techs who were, a lot of them were working remote. Some of them actually flew in to help him out, help his customers out. It was great. I mean,
Mm.
what competitor sends resources to their competitor in a situation like this? And so I, normally I'm trying to remember. I was talking to somebody. Oh yeah. So I was talking to one of my attorneys, and he said that one of his partner attorneys, which is a different firm, is handling some of his cases in a certain court, and he was handling some of the other attorney's cases in another court. And I was like, that's really interesting that in the law field you can do that. I was like, in my field, a competitor is a competitor. You don't share, you know. But then at this event, I found out that's not really the case. When push comes to shove, when you are against the wall, we do help each other. Like in this case. And then another interesting story from the event is um, this this one MSP and the owner. It was like evening. He was with his family, and his wife was downstairs, and he had a phone call, and his office had called because they thought something anomalous was happening, and they were thinking that they are getting breached. They were in the process of getting breached. He ran down to his wife. He told her what's happening. He said, "I'm going into the office. I'll see you later. I don't know if I'll see you in a few hours or in a few days." He took off, went home. They had already planned what they were going to do in a situation like this. And you know what the wife did? She went to the bank and she withdrew all their money. And the bank, of course, didn't have enough cash on hand for her to make that withdrawal. So they had to call other branches. They got all that money. She walked out with shopping bags full of money out of that bank, cash in her hand, because she knew if something bad like this happened, they were going to need that cash, because when it comes to this, that money is not safe in the bank.
Wow.
Interesting stories from
Wow. So help me understand this. So there was a breach at the MSP.
Well, so they were thinking it was a breach. Eventually, it wasn't a breach. Nothing bad happened. She took the money back to the bank and deposited it again. But they had a plan that if something like this happened, I'm going to be focused on work. You need to go to the bank and take care of the money situation. Interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I'm just, for my information, I mean, if there's a breach, how?
Well, so here's the thing: the fallout from the breach. If you're an MSP, you get breached. Your customers are probably going to get breached.
Yeah.
What are your customers going to do? They're going to try to come to you and hold you accountable. They're going to want that money that's sitting in the bank. If that money's not in the bank,
that is a very smart man. That guy, kudos to that guy. I wouldn't even thought about that. That is super smart.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there were just these things happening, and of course we learned a lot. Fred Vacola was there. He's the CEO of Kaseya, and we talked about the plan behind what Kaseya is planning with Datto, and why it was a good decision to make, and the chances of that happening, because Datto being a public company and Kaseya being a private company, and just big things like that were interesting to talk about. But yeah, it was a good 2 days. I was going to try to stay there the third day, which is actually, it goes on for 3 days, but there was no flights. So, I either had to come in on the second day, or I would have been there for the whole week. So I was like, nah, I need to get back. So, but yeah, that's what I've been doing. Besides that, soon as I come back, there's stuff that I have to do that I've been putting on hold while I was out of town. So I have to take care of that, and then on top of that, we're trying to expand our workforce, and of course, we're, like everybody else, we're having a tough time finding qualified people here. So we had I had interviews scheduled for our new location. It's going to be in the Philippines, by the way. So I had interviews with people in the Philippines, and so all that is rolling in. This Sunday, actually, I have an onboarding call with one of the guys that we did hire. So there's going to be a lot of things going on, and then of course later, then we are I did get you signed up, Mac, with Jim over there, so he's gonna do his deal. You're gonna be in a sales pod
Yeah,
and all of that. So there's a lot of things that are happening right
there's a
now.
lot of things. Yeah.
The trick is to make sure and execute properly. And I keep reminding myself, businesses are built on process. I just keep reminding myself, businesses are built on process. That's the most important thing. Make sure you have your process right, and everything else will flow. Um, every time I think that I'm the only one who can do it, that means I haven't thought my process through right. So yeah.
Well, you know what? It's to Nadeem's, point. Some of the things it's been a slow process. I can say on my end, Nadeem has been tweaking, certain things that we're doing, and we saw a pretty great productive month, for what it's worth. With some meetings with some small businesses that really need. Um, to have their current system and infrastructure reevaluated. And now you're starting to see people, small business owners, look and say, I don't think what we're doing is working, or what we're doing is sufficient, or like one guy said, just didn't know what he was doing safe, for his clients. So we're starting to see that. I think people are starting to realize, like, we got to have some things looked at.
Yeah. Uh, so yeah, it's been, it's just one of those things. But one of the things that I also want to say, and this was something that just kind of came up in one of my FTAs, one of my meetings, and I was talking to the CEO, and I told him, I was like, look, you always want to be moving forward, right? In business, there is no such thing as standing still, because
Mhm.
if you're standing still, the whole world is moving forward. That means you're really going backwards,
Backwards.
and
Yeah.
that's not where you want to be. And he really liked that. He was like, that's, I never thought about it that way, but that's very true. That's, and that's the thing, is we always want to keep moving forward. And it's not like, it's not a, we're trying to build something out of nothing, and that always is a major effort. And I just, tell myself that every time I get tired, is like, hey, we're doing these big things, keeps me going. But yeah, it's been a hectic week, and but it's been fun. It's been good fun. The experiences that we have, the relationships that we build, um, the there are some new ideas which I can't share, which we are going to start implementing. So there's a lot of good things that are going to come out of this one event, that's probably going to help us, for years to come. And that's the power of these in-person meetings
Yeah.
that we were missing during the pandemic. You
Yeah.
can do Zoom calls and all that, Teams calls, whatever, but at the end of the day, you're not breaking off into a group and going to a restaurant or to a bar, or you're not out during the
Get
lunch,
those
during a lunch break,
interpersonal.
and just
Yeah.
talking to people. It's like people you would never have thought about. So the thing is, a Teams call, you already have to know somebody to schedule a meeting with them. With
Right.
these impromptu calls, like, you're all in a room and you just walk up to somebody and start talking. And that's, where the power is. You start building these new connections that are not possible in a remote meeting type situation, because you can't just start a remote meeting with a stranger, unless you know him. I mean, how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
So that kind of thing, is what was missing. And we were taking, the proper precautions. They actually verified by looking at everybody's vaccine card. They I mean, everything was very controlled. You couldn't even enter it without like a scan code. So they assigned everybody a scan code, and you had to scan it before you can get up to that floor. And then at that floor, they were checking vaccine cards and all the protection and stuff. And so far, I haven't heard of anybody getting sick or anything. So, but yeah, it was such an interesting event, and I just miss it from during the pandemic. We just kind of
Yeah.
quit doing that, and this was actually the first big event that I've been to since the pandemic. So yeah, it's been awesome. Some
I would
good
love
things that
to.
I've learned.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, some of the good things that I've learned, it's going to apply to exactly what you do, Mac, and we're going to, tweak our process a little bit
Yep.
after talking to some other partners who, where we know what works. So let's just try to replicate
Try
that.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I would, one thing that I was thinking of, I remember like right before the pandemic happened, we were doing I was going out in the field and just meeting people face to face, and it was actually pretty good, talking to people face to face and telling them who we are and getting cards. And I hope at some point we can do, that's something I can do again, where we go to people and say, hey, this is what we do, we just wanted to meet. Doing more in-person group meetings like the CEO meeting that we did, that would be great also.
Yeah, yeah, and so yeah, that's so these are some of the things that we we're kind of, I guess, call it pandemic fatigue, I guess.
Yeah. It
But
is.
yeah, and it's it's one of those unfortunate things that kind of came about. But I'm glad things are, and in a way it's good because there was some pent up energy that uh, that was now all in this one place, and I think the conversations people had were much better. I mean, my business coach was there, and we, he was telling me about some of the new things that we want to do, we want to start doing, and he wanted more insight into some of our numbers, which right now we share a lot of those numbers with him, but they're not fast enough, right?
Yeah.
So we do it like, I mean, we do it like once every 2 weeks, and he's like, well, yeah, but that's not fast enough. We need to have it to where he can get them like just days into, so every few days he can get some updated numbers. So basically we'll be keeping a closer uh, eye on the pulse of the business, really. And so yeah, and yeah, one of the new, well, it's not really new for us. We've had an app dev department offshore for a long time now, but what's new for us is you know offshoring our tech side of things
Yeah.
into the Philippines.
Yeah.
And I think the potential is there. I mean, the talent available in Philippines for the tech/engineering side is so much better than, I mean, like onshore. We just can't find people. It's not a matter of salary or money. We just can't find people. The talent is just not there. So when the talent pool shrinks, it just becomes more and more competitive, and that causes another issue, which is the people who are good, they start moving from company to company because everybody's offering them more options, and then pretty soon you have this high-end person who's been jumping between so many companies, nobody wants to hire him anymore because, hey, dude, you can't stay at one place. So now, I mean, it's just like a vicious cycle that kind of started. So that's kind of forcing a lot of companies to go outside of the market. Um, but in a way, it's good because we're on the leading edge of it. So I think if we can execute on that well, we'll be ahead of the game for years to come.
Yeah. And this, it's one, like I tell people, it's one of the things I love about PCSN. There are a lot of companies that swear that they try to be forward thinking and a couple steps ahead, but in reality they stay stagnant or they just make real minute changes to processes. What I love about what we do here is that we make some pretty substantial, if you would say, changes if we feel it's going to benefit our customer base. And that's the thing about it. It isn't necessarily a money thing for PCSN. It is more of a reputation and more of a process thing to make sure our people, our customers are safe. They're getting efficient. We're proactive, and I don't really see a lot of companies that can say they do that. So yeah,
Yeah, and to that, it's not always about the money. It's
yeah,
we want to change the world for the better.
yeah,
I mean, so I could give you an example. So this one customer, I won't name any names, but this one customer, they decided they were going to find somebody else because we switched to our new SOC, our new Security Operations Center, and they don't like that option. And it's like, this new service has already found 4 or 5 different nodes in our client base with anomalies that we didn't even know. We had no clue were there, and this found it, cleaned it, remediated it, and all that. And then so that gets me thinking. It's like it doesn't matter how much a customer or prospect like that would willing to pay us. At the end of the day, do we really want customers like that, or do we want customers who are looking out to do what the current landscape demands, right? The current landscape demands a full SOC, a full SIEM, security operations center and security information event management. The landscape demands that. It's not an option anymore. I mean, a lot of cyber insurance companies are denying cyber coverage unless you have SOC and SIEM in place.
yeah.
So it's like, it's not it's going from one of those luxuries to necessities. That's where it's moving. It's not a luxury anymore. It's now becoming a necessity.
And I don't think a lot of MSPs are catching that. I think you can tell in some of the meetings. I mean, if we could even include you into some of the meetings Nadeem has when he asks, these FTEs or these prospective potential customers, what's your current process? And they're not really able to even nail that down, even if they have, which is crazy. Even if they have somebody on staff that is supposed to do that, it's this whole whoosh. Like holy crap, we're not doing that. We
Yeah.
don't have a stock in place.
Yeah.
We're not. These guys don't do that, and then.
And then again, when we say about talk about these things, the SOC in place, or if you have a SIEM in place, this is a very specific, hard to find talent, right? So you can't expect your IT admin to do all this. It's just not possible. IT admins are one type of creature. SOC SIEM is a different type of creature.
Different type of creature. That's true.
It's like you're trying to mix deer and lions. It's not going to go well. So yeah, we look for this. We look to and when I talk to people, I always ask them, what their process is, because like I said in the beginning, businesses are built on process. If your process is broken, you'll be fighting that uphill battle every day. Eventually, you'll get tired and you'll be like, I'm done. If your process is right, it'll be like you're just coasting down. It's nice and smooth, and you're growing. And that's where you want to be. That's where we want to be. And it's not just growth as far as money. It's growth as far as how many customers have we helped, how many customers we have helped grow, customers we have taken through acquisitions, customers that we've taken through a phase of growth where they did not think that they could get there. I mean, like this one company that we engaged with, they were small when we engaged with them. I mean, they were like, I don't know, 7, 8 users. And by the time they went to the next phase, they were 170 users. So and we've been handling their IT. And finally, you get to 170, 200 users. It's like, okay, guys, you need your own thing.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
can take you as far as we can
As
take
far
you.
as we
And,
can.
and now you need to build this entire thing. You need to replicate it internally, because you're getting to that phase. And we're happy to tell them what they need to do. We're happy to tell them, hey, we're not a good fit. Even some companies that are starting out, like I meet with some, and they're a good fit from a size, but the way the culture is of the company, we tell them, hey, it's not going to be a good fit.
Not gonna fix it. Yeah. I think the thing about it's funny you mention that is that when I call um uh, just when I'm calling companies and I'm telling them, hey, it might be a good idea, if we can meet with the CEO, and oh well, rather smugly, I mean, oh, we have a guy. I'm like, listen, we're not here to try to convince you to to use PCSN, because the simple fact is you may not even be a match,
Right.
for us. And it's funny that when I say that, now it's gone from you saying, "Oh, we don't need that," to you being kind of offended that we're saying that. But it's like it's not even meant to be offensive. It's an absolute truth. You may not, in fact, be a fit because, like you said,
we
the
want to
culture.
we want to get to know you before we marry you. Why
That's
would we
it.
want to
That's
get married
it.
to a stranger? We just
That's,
want to get to know you. That's
that's
all
it.
we want to do.
That's
Right,
it.
right,
Yeah.
right. And
And
as
there's
far as
another thing. I'm sorry. There's another thing that you said that I love, that I'm wishing that a lot of smaller companies are forward thinking in, is that when you have the plans for growth, and when you're educated and understanding that my IT or my overall infrastructure can potentially negatively impact the growth pattern of my company. And so now when you have companies that are small, we have quite a few that are small now, but they're forward thinking, like we plan on adding, and we don't want to have to take 5 steps back, because we're adding, we're ahead of the curve. That to
yeah,
me is
yeah,
smart business.
yeah, yeah. And it's just a lot to think about, and we'll leave it at that. Smart business. That's where you want to be.
Smart
Smart
business.
business. Yeah, yeah. And it's it's like, and I'm sure every industry out there has their own things, like MSPs. We have our events. I'm sure accountants have theirs, and law firms have theirs. And so I think every industry has that. And um, there's a lot to that energy in a room.
Mm,
When all these people get together, there's an energy in the room that you can feel it. And that's where good ideas come to life, right?
mm,
That's where big things happen.
yeah.
uh, so yeah, I mean, I'm glad I went. I mean, I didn't get enough sleep, but I'm glad I went, and I'll try to catch up this weekend. um, I mean, I got an early morning call on Sunday, but I'll try to make up for that.
Nice.
So with that, Mac, we'll call it a day. It's been wonderful, and
Yes, sir.
we'll see everybody next week.
Everyone have a good one.